Gojo, the special grade Jujutsu Sorcerer who can set an infinite distance between him and his opponent, rendering any hit against him worthless, versus Itachi, the Akatsuki member who is the Genjutsu master and who literally murdered his entire clan, including his parents, because he's just like that. Also, I want to give a huge thanks to Crafty and Captain for helping out with some of the Gojo stuff. Their channels will be linked in the description, so be sure to check them out. This video won't be going into too much depth on Gojo's abilities since I've talked about him before, and I legit have an entire video coming on him soon. And I don't want to think like I'm just repeating myself or anything like that in my videos, which I do a lot. Also, I've made one of those YouTube Shorts edits on this exact topic, though keep in mind, when I make those kind of edits, I don't put research into account. I typically just make whoever wins off the top of my head for edits. However, for this, we'll be going into how the fight would actually go using evidence and reasoning. Now, for starters, Itachi cannot touch Gojo. Simple as that. Gojo has what's called the Limitless, which allows Gojo to bring the concept of infinity into reality, which allows Gojo to manipulate and distort space at will. And while this is in fact an inherited technique from the Gojo family, Gojo was born with not only the Limitless, but the Six Eyes, which allows him to use the technique to its fullest extent, making Gojo the strongest in all of Jujutsu Kaisen, because his opponent's attacks are typically rendered useless when used against Satoru Gojo. To put this into perspective, Gojo's Limitless technique works in a similar manner to the Achilles and the Tortoise paradox. In the paradox of the Achilles and the Tortoise, Achilles is in a foot race with the tortoise and can never reach the tortoise because of the gap that is always present between the two. Of course, this is a paradox and it's an impossibility which Gojo is capable of bringing forth into reality. Can Itachi hit through this infinite barrier? No. Itachi cannot simply punch through this infinite barrier, but there is in fact a way for Itachi to bypass the infinity, which I'll get into a bit later. Alongside Gojo's Limitless is a complete arsenal of absolutely broken curse techniques. Blue is what happens when Gojo amplifies the amount of cursed energy that he's using to perform a curse technique. Blue brings the concept of negative numbers and negative distance into reality. And when he does this, it forces actual space to compensate and fill the area in by sucking stuff towards the impossibility, similar to a black hole. The more cursed energy poured into the technique, the larger the damage, which allows him to tear entire buildings apart in mere moments. A reverse curse technique possesses negative energy into positive energy by taking two sources of cursed energy and multiplying them by one another. As a result, the energy that destroys becomes energy that creates, and negative energy becomes positive. This allows Gojo to use his curse technique reversal, Red. This reverses the effect of the strengthened Limitless, producing a strong repelling effect rather than an attracting one. This technique manifests itself as a small but extremely bright red orb on the tip of the user's finger, representing the very essence of convergence and divergence brought into reality. This technique brings the concept of motion and reversal into reality. Purple is born from merging the two infinities, blue and red. This produces an imaginary mass that rushes forward and erases everything in its path. This is initiated by a hand sign that extends the index and pinky fingers outward while leaving the rest folded. Purple is unleashed when the sign switches to a pinching motion rather than the attraction of blue or the repulsion of red. Purple is an extraordinarily destructive energy wave of annihilation that rips whatever it hits from existence. This is by far Gojo's most destructive ability. Hollow Purple, as stated in Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 0, works down to its atomic level, meaning no matter how durable you are, if you don't have resistance to durability negation, Purple is reducing you to absolutely nothing. This ability is calculated to be about country level, as shown with the calc provided to me by Crafty. As I said earlier, Itachi cannot simply hit through this infinite barrier with normal jutsu, as the distance between Itachi and Gojo will remain infinite. However, Itachi has access to what is called the Manekyo Sharingan. It is initially awakened by the trauma suffered from witnessing the death of someone close to you. So naturally, you can see why such a price equals such power. One of the many abilities of the Manekyo Sharingan is Susanoo. One of Itachi's Susanoo abilities is the Totsuka Blade. It is an ethereal weapon with an enchanted blade capable of sealing the target it pierces. Those who are stabbed by the sword are drawn into the jar and trapped in a genjutsu-like world with drunken dreams for all of eternity. As described by both Itachi and Black Zetsu, this ability, as well as the Yatsumir, both work on a spiritual or intangible level. essentially meaning that it will completely ignore your physical form and target your spiritual presence. This is consistent as when we see Orochimaru get hit by this jutsu, his physical form remains unharmed while being sealed, meaning the Totsuka blade will actually just completely ignore Gojo's infinity, as Gojo is sealed within the eternal genjutsu. The Yata mirror is similar to his offensive counterpart, is a spirit weapon without a physical form, with the power to change every one of its properties, allowing it to alter its attributes in accordance with the attributes of the attack, rendering the attack ineffective. Initially, I believed that hollow purple coming in contact with the Yata mirror would be the same case as an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, rendering both attacks motionless while moving simultaneously. However, the more thought I put into it, the more I realized that the Yata mirror is entirely intangible. There is no physical form for Gojo's purple to erase, as it simply doesn't exist, rendering Gojo's hollow purple entirely useless in this battle. Now, we also know each Akatsuki member is at the bare minimum Bijou level, according to this data book. This is also shown to be consistent as Itachi is able to throw down with KCM1 Naruto, and using calcs, this Naruto should be multi-continental. Now, both Itachi and Gojo should be similar in terms of speed, as Itachi was capable of keeping up with KCM Naruto, who was able to blitz the Raikage, who according to the data books can move at the speed of light, and Hanami, the cursed spirit born from the fear of land-based natural disasters, actually dodged Gojo's purple, which is imaginary mass, because of the convergent and divergent infinities colliding, which makes Gojo's purple a tachyon particle, which is a hypothetical particle that will always travel faster than light. The squared mass of a tachyon particle is negative as its imaginary mass, and Jogo is stated to be stronger and faster than Hanami, meaning that Jogo should scale to purple, making both these characters FTL. This is also consistent because Kenjaku was capable of activating his techniques within a black hole, which was so massive that not even light itself could escape it. This is also a real black hole as stated within the scan, and just being able to move within a black hole would require light speed, and Gojo would at the bare minimum scale to this. Now I want to get into the Mach 3 statement for a moment. Mach 3 is not a top tier speed feat within Jujutsu Kaisen. In fact, if you believe this, you'd be saying that Maki at the Goodwill event is faster than Maki after Shibuya, as this Maki way earlier in the series is capable of catching a bullet which was calculated to require Mach 19. Again, the bullet itself was not moving at Mach 19, the speed at which she caught the bullet is Mach 19. There's nothing going against the fact that this is in fact a normal bullet, so we have to assume it's moving at the speed of a normal bullet. Plus, saying Maki was blitzed by Naoya is just being disingenuous to the story, as Maki even wanted to counter this and was simply hurt from the damage caused from the force. He also straight up needed to build momentum to even do this, as this is simply travel speed and not actual combat speed. My point being that a Mach 3 cap is just horrendous downplay if you actually believe that's the peak of Jujutsu Kaisen speed scaling. That said, immeasurable speed Gojo also doesn't work for many reasons. In the manga, Gojo gets sealed within the prison realm. The prison realm is a special grade cursed object containing a barrier capable of sealing absolutely anything or anyone inside of it. The prison realm was the crux of Kenjaku's plan to steal Satoru Gojo during the Shibuya incident. The strongest sorcerer obviously couldn't be defeated, so Kenjaku convinced Mahito and his allied special grade curse spirits to align themselves with his plan to seal Gojo inside the prison realm. While inside the prison realm, Gojo is able to put his blindfold back on and move after stating that time doesn't pass within the prison realm. Moving without time is a qualification for immeasurable speed, as you'd be moving in negative seconds. So the question is, does Gojo have immeasurable speed? Now, the validity of Gojo stating this is questionable, as he states, "looks like time doesn't pass here," which could mean that Gojo is theorizing on the possibility of time not moving within the prison realm. However, typically when Gojo makes statements like this in the manga, he's usually correct. Gojo is also never shown actually walking around or running around within this realm. He's shown putting his blindfold back on. Yes, this is still moving, but it's never actual speed. Now, looking at the definition of these forms of speed, these would not be consistent with the actual series itself, as Gojo is seen using teleportation multiple times, which takes time to do. In which, if he had the capabilities of moving in 0 or negative seconds, why would he be doing this when he can actually just travel faster than instantaneous teleportation? It's not consistent enough for me to use. Gojo's domain expansion, Infinite Void, brings the opponent inside the Limitless itself. Within the Limitless is absolute infinite knowledge, as well as boundless raw information. The longer the opponent is in the domain, the more information that floods the mind. This is so intense on the mind that it will completely immobilize an opponent. This is because of a phenomenon where the target is able to feel and see everything while not being able to do that at the same time. This is even being stated to be an almost guaranteed win once it ensures his opponent. However, this might not even have an effect on Itachi either. The danger of Infinite Void is the infinite knowledge being shoved into the target's mind, and in Naruto Itachi Story Volume 2, in Chapter 6, page 178 to 179, it's stated that Itachi can actually create an infinite amount of clones inside of Tsukiyomi. Itachi's Tsukiyomi is stated by this data book to be infinite in size, which would require Itachi to be able to process the entire thing. So basically what I'm saying is that Itachi could easily endure the Infinite Void pretty easily. So it's probably pretty safe to say that Itachi wins this matchup. Literally everything in Itachi's arsenal is a complete counter to Gojo's hacks. And also Itachi doesn't have cursed energy, so his 6 eyes wouldn't really work too well if you saw what happened with Toji. But yeah, Itachi beats Gojo.